So here we finally are, starting the first Let's Play, and in this series we're going to be creating the county of Lost River. Some backstory about the build and the area itself. We're going to say that this starts as a small old western town that was previously a hotspot used for miners heading west towards California. Years later, the area has become just another tiny western town, but the city council has recently attempted to bring in more tax revenue and hired a third-party marketing agency to advertise the diverse geography and biomes of the area in hopes of becoming the next great tourist destination. This map wasn't necessarily built to match the theme of a western town. However, I thought when I saw pictures of Nevada and Utah in the fall that this would match perfectly for what I wanted. We even have rail tracks coming straight through the starting tile, as well as what appears to be an abandoned, what we'll call, mining town. I believe even if we look at some of the natural resources, we can see that a lot of them will be in this area here. I am super excited to start this series. If you have any suggestions or feedback for this series, please be sure to leave them in the comments below, and don't worry, I will have the webcam turned off for the majority of this. I just wanted to introduce myself, introduce the Lost River County, and let's begin the Let's Play. I'll also have a list to all of the mods that we're using in this series, as well as a complete one-click collection for all of the assets that we'll use in each episode. And I'll also have a link where you can subscribe to this map so you can play along. I will say, if you install this map and realize this one looks like it's had a haircut, that's because it did. There were a lot of trees in this map, which I absolutely loved. It was one of the reasons I subscribed to the map to begin with, but it was causing major performance issues for my computer when I was trying to test record this, so I had to go chop down some trees. It took about 2 hours to remove all of the trees I needed to remove, and when I did so, it looked like the hills were a bit empty. So what I ended up doing was changing the building theme to a custom one to have the cliff texture look a little bit more like the Rocky Mountains. But so far from what I've looked around with this map, it's absolutely fantastic, and I am super excited to start building on this map. I mean, look at all of the little details that you can see placed throughout the area. It's wonderful. I'm super excited, and after hours of looking, this is the one that I just kept coming back to. So without wasting any more time, let's jump in and begin building our city, Lost River County. So we do have the 81 tiles mod installed and enabled on this map. I have electricity transmission without power lines disabled, as well as transmitting water disabled. I enjoy placing water lines, and frankly I enjoy running power lines. In fact, I have a few custom assets that make running power lines a lot more fun. In vanilla, the power lines look terrible, so it's not necessarily something I enjoy running, but with some custom assets, it looks great. I may end up turning those on later on in the series, but for now, definitely going to keep them on because I like the realism that it adds to the game. But with that, the starting tile for this map is actually in this area right here where we are. And one of the things I was searching for with a map was to have railroad tracks near the starting tile, preferably in the starting tile, and this absolutely has that. The backstory with this, I suppose, would be more along the lines of the Transcontinental Railroad came through this area in 1868, thus setting this up to be a hotspot for people traveling west for the gold rush. But enough talking, it's finally time to come in here and place down our first road. Now, I don't have Unlock All enabled on this series. It's not a mod that I necessarily enjoy using, because frankly for me, after a while, I think it takes a lot of the fun out of the game. But let's go ahead and place down the cheapest road we can so that we can unlock the rest of the roads. The main goal of this first episode is to unlock district styles. That way we can build what would more resemble a western style town, especially an old west town. But we do have this up here, which can act as part of the backstory as far as the abandoned part of town. I think it's entirely possible that we come up here and build out more of this area, as well as build an old western train station down here where people could have hopped on and off the trains back in the day. So looking more at this, it appears that this highway does connect through this interchange over here, but if you come just a little bit more up the road, there's another highway, a 2-lane highway, that would connect from there. I think it would be more realistic for us to start with the 2-lane highway through here, so let's build off this, then we'll come back to this highway later, possibly building it around as a ring road, but for now we'll just focus off this 2-lane highway. So it appears we don't have this highway unlocked yet, but we do have the big highway unlocked, so let's go ahead and just run that down just a little bit. Also, because I'm cheap, I'm probably going to run the dirt roads off of this. I think it would make most sense even for the area at the time. So this being an old western town, some sort of grid would have made sense back in the day. So I think if we just establish our grid with that in mind, we should be good to go. So I think for the most part, this little section right here would remain a small town, and potentially forever. So I'm going to start the grid coming back about 13 from the initial road itself. And because this would have been established so long ago, I'll say that this would be a larger grid. So we'll do 12 by 18. I'm leaving 13 coming from here to here so that we can have room to adjust this road to make it a little bit wider without losing the grids. So we'll come down for this one about 18. And then we'll come down another 18 and connect back up to our highway. Immediately, I already see one problem, and that would be that we have tree anarchy on, which means trees are just coming up through our streets. Which, I don't know, that could be typical for an old western town, trees to run through the streets. I'll just go ahead and clean this up really quick, make it look a little bit nicer. That way it looks like this was actually intended to be built and not just built by some guy. So while we build out this grid, I'm going to go ahead and switch to dirt roads. That way we save just a little bit of money. The big asphalt road is $20 a cell and 24 cents a week of upkeep. And the big dirt road is 10 cents per cell and 16 cents a week upkeep. So it's significantly cheaper to run the dirt roads until we have some money built up. But I suppose the next thing we should do is go ahead and start the simulation. Hey, that's me. So I suppose because this is the first episode, I should introduce a little bit about myself. My name's Patrick. I've been playing Cities since it came out. I've taken breaks here and there, but overall it's been a game that I have loved and enjoyed for years. It took me a while to learn the true fundamentals of the game, which is actually why I started this channel, as I wanted to share what I've learned about Cities over the years. So we are starting to lose $38 a week. We need to go ahead and zone. I'm just in a very talkative mood, so let's go ahead and zone some residential down closer to the waterfront. Unfortunately, we don't have district styles unlocked yet, which means these houses are going to be completely random, but I also just realized that we need water and power. So let's go ahead and take a 2-lane gravel road and bring it down this way. Let's turn our contour lines on to see if we have just enough space. That was great planning. I meant to do that. We'll bring this out just a little bit. So we need let's see, we need 13 and then 13. So from here we can come back 13. And we'll just give this a little bit more space. So real quick, let's run our water lines. I'm going to choose this water tower by Die Hard Hunter. I think it's a great looking asset, and I think it will really fit into this city pretty well. The design of it reminds me of something that you would see in an old western town. And of course we also need power, so let's come back over to our power section. I'm not a huge fan of the windmills in this game, but I also don't know how coal power would do. I think what may make the most sense, because we're in such a sunny area, if we can find the sun, there it is to set up a solar farm. I think a solar farm would actually make sense here, so let's go ahead and just set up the basics of this. We'll give them sewage treatment real quick before they get too mad. And for that, we'll just choose the inland water treatment plant. This is probably my favorite water treatment asset because I don't like turning the water gray or brown or whatever color it turns. It looks terrible. I don't like polluted water in the cities. I would rather have the ground pollution that can be a little more hidden. And now that we have the water treatment plant, let's set up our power really quick. So I want to use play it because I want to determine where the sun travels. So it looks like the sun would be hitting this area from this direction up here, and it seems to stay in that direction, which is great because what that means we can do is set up our solar farm looking at the sun right up there. So I will go ahead and play this now just so we can get some people moving in. They're not going to be the happiest people in the world, but that's okay. I wouldn't assume too many people living in a town with no power and water would be too happy. So we can get pretty particular about how these look. I think overall it would be completely normal to see solar panels in this area. When we unlock fences and landscaping, we'll put a nice little fence around here, make it look a little bit more detailed, but we don't unlock that until we have a population of 1,200 people. And if we don't connect our water treatment, oh, we did connect our water treatment, great. So it looks like now we are pretty good to go. We have power, we have water, we have sewage treatment, and we don't have anything else. So all of these people are still mad. That's because I didn't do the thing I said I liked doing, which is running power lines. So one thing that I would want to do with this is give them a power substation. I really love this asset. It's something that I think looks much more realistic when you add it into your city rather than just running these crazy transmission lines all throughout your city. I like having the power source and then running the power lines through a substation, so we'll give them a little bit of this. They should be very happy about that. I mean, I would be. If I had no power, I don't know what I would do. When it comes to cities, I do actually like things to be very symmetrical and very even, and sometimes, yeah, it bothers me when something's not necessarily symmetrical. But yeah, I suppose I should introduce a little bit more about myself as we get more people moving into our city here. I've been making YouTube videos in some way or another since about 2007. I was, I think, 10. We'll say 10 back then. I've always had a passion for content creation, and in fact, it's been my full-time job in some way or another since 2014 when I graduated high school. I did sell real estate for a while through there. That was not one of my more happy moments in life, but it was something I thought I would like, and I absolutely did not, so I went back to doing content in 2018. Along with gaming and tech, one of my biggest passions in life is cars. I will say this series is probably going to be heavily vehicle focused. I would assume with it being a western town, stuff's going to be sprawling, it's going to be spread out, so it's going to involve cars. That mixed with my love of cars, it's going to be a car-focused city. I understand that's not necessarily everyone's thing with the game, but it's mine, it's what I enjoy building, and it's what feels realistic to me because of my passion for cars. So it looks like we're starting to build up. I think what we would see now is some commercial demand, and in fact we do see a bit of commercial demand. So one thing I want to do is disable zoning on this area right here. I don't necessarily know that we would have too many people building on this little strip, so I want to make sure we can maximize what we do have. So let's just disable zoning real quick. We'll upgrade this road so that we remove zoning from that little section and this little section. I would want to focus most of our commercial through here. We could even have signage running down the highway, but I really want people using this road to load. Alright, but nevertheless, let's move back and add in just a bit of commercial zoning. So because this is such a secluded area of the town, I want to preserve it as long as I can. I don't necessarily want to build the biggest city possible in this little area right here. I would like to do that probably up on the hill over here, which means to do that, we're going to need to see this interchange come through. What is this? This is beautiful. Now, speaking of beauty, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I spent so long searching the workshop for a map that looked good and fit kind of the idea I had. It's not necessarily what the map was meant for, but it's what we're going to make it, and I think it's going to work perfectly. Alright, we're finally starting to get some industrial demand. Let's go ahead and bring a road up through here. We can go ahead and connect just this next part of the road. And the unfortunate part of disabling zoning is it also disabled zoning all the way through here, so we need to turn that back on. And then just because I wouldn't necessarily want anything zoned along this cliff to ruin the train tracks, we'll go ahead and take that out as well. One thing I am curious about, and I would love to know your opinion, do you think the train would settle more towards the town with the commercial and residential, or do you think the train station would be set up over in the industrial area? But we have just a little bit more of that residential demand, so we can go ahead and zone just a bit. It is funny because I'm super excited to unlock the district areas, that way we can set a more western style theme for this map. But for now, I am absolutely enjoying just the little small town that we have. We do still have industrial demand, I never fulfilled that. I suppose if there is one thing you will learn over this Let's Play, it's that I get distracted very easily. In fact, I have a list of all of the things that I want to build because I know me, and I'm going to get super distracted throughout the build, so we need to run our water pipes down along this road so that these people have access to water. But yeah, definitely need to unlock the district styles. I don't mind this. This doesn't look too crazy. That doesn't look too crazy either, mainly because you can't even see it. But definitely this mid-century modern or Art Deco, it doesn't necessarily fit what we're going for. This is also hideous. This seems to be a commercial. I don't know how this actually made its way into residential, because that doesn't look like residential one bit. And a McDonald's. Hey, there we go. We've got a McDonald's. That actually does make sense. We need to take our trees out. In fact, I think I'm actually just going to turn the tree anarchy off for now, because I don't want trees popping up through our build. That's probably another thing you'll notice I do is I'll make some mistakes here and there. That being one of them, is that I forgot to run water to the industrial area that our citizens so desired. Oh wow, that actually looks really cool. We can watch the train come down through here. Okay, so one thing I will say is this doesn't necessarily look like a train, especially with this on top. These tracks are very pretty, and this doesn't necessarily look like the type of train that would run through here. The cars in the back actually don't look too wrong, but the actual locomotive, engine, whatever this would be called, doesn't look realistic, especially for what you would see in this area. It is cool watching the train go by, but we'll have to fix that because that doesn't look too correct at the moment. I may end up regretting my choice of not bringing this highway down through here, but I do think for the most part it would look better cutting across the water and running down along this cliff through here. Also, we can hop in here and let's go ahead and turn down these just so we save a little bit of money. And I will warn you now, I will absolutely forget to turn that up in the future. So when I start worrying about why I don't have enough water and why I don't have enough power and I'm building more units to provide that, it's because I didn't turn the budget up. And in fact, I think we have already come across that. So let's look at our water availability real quick. So this is something I'm curious about. Why did that shut off? That was very weird. I've never seen that. But look, now our city is making money. We have a little bit of demand, so let's go ahead and continue building out our grid, which I've just noticed this gravel texture. It looks stunning. The houses don't necessarily look stunning right now, but that's okay. We can work on that. Really like to unlock district styles by the end of this episode. Currently, we're only 600 people away. For reference, we are 40 minutes into recording the raw footage of this, and we are still 600 people away. So I don't necessarily know that unless I speed this up a little bit, which we can do, and in fact, we can come into play it and make sure that our game speed is set up to normal. That way we can get a true 3x speed. Hopefully by the end of this episode, we can hit that many people. We've disabled zoning again. I used to use the zoning toolset. I believe it was called zoning toolset. And it would allow you to just force upgrade zoning on a road. This mod works better technically. It has more functionality, but I do miss the way the other one worked. I feel like it worked better for how forgetful I am. It's not always the most convenient thing to run through and force upgrade the roads, but you know, it works. So we'll go ahead and fill this in. I want to leave just a little bit of space, probably 2 is too much, but I would like to leave a little bit of space where we can have a path running up through the middle. I know you're complaining about water. Yes. One of the things I do want to do is I want to respect the topography a little bit and run this road. I think it would be, in real life, a super fun road to drive, and that's how I think about roads in cities. Is it a road I would like to drive? And this seems to be a road that I would drive. I grew up in a smaller town in Tennessee, and it had so many fun roads to drive. I then moved to Florida when I was 22, and Florida doesn't have fun roads to drive. We have A1A, which everyone says is an iconic road, and it is. I actually live right next to A1A. It's an interesting road to drive at 30 miles an hour. It's not necessarily a fun cruise the coast kind of road, but it works. In the area I live, it's so dense with tourism that it's not even possible to necessarily have fun on those roads. But occasionally we'll go up to Tennessee and get to drive those roads. And in fact, about, I guess 2 years ago, we moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Didn't like that, moved back within 6 months. But it was nice in that time to be able to drive some of the roads there. It's always been one of my biggest passions. And so I love living in cities where cars can be utilized. The unfortunate part about that is when you live in a tourist town, it's not always the easiest to utilize your car. But that's okay. And there we go. We have reached Little Hamlet, a population of 380. We've unlocked taxes. We've unlocked loans, garbage, healthcare. We need to add schools. We need to add landfills. We have a lot of schools. If you can't tell, there's even more high schools. And we unlocked a commercial emergency room. That's an interesting one. All right, so I think for this, we have this JP Elementary School. It's one of my favorite assets because it's such a small school. This is such a small area. I think it's something we would see. This, actually, the New Zealand Victorian School may actually be the better choice for this map, though. I think because of the size of this area and what we're going for, we should stick to smaller assets like this ambulance station. It's such a rural, out there area. I think that's the way to go. So let's do that. First thing, what we're going to do, though, before we turn this back up, is we have just... Okay, so I'm not going to turn my education budget down because every time I've done that, it has royally messed with the way schools work. Turning the road budget down, I've seen it have an effect on the game, but for the most part, it just saves you money, especially at first. I'll turn the electricity and the water up as needed, but I'm going to leave garbage and healthcare and pretty much everything else where it is. I don't think we need to take out a loan right now. I don't think the $20,000 is going to give us anything that we desperately need, but we are going to turn taxes up to 12% because that's what everyone kind of seems to agree will make your Sims happy, but also bring you in the most money. So one thing we do need, we need to add the ambulance, which we can do. I think the most logical area for this to be would be near the highway. So we'll go ahead and place this right near the front of the entrance to the area. And I suppose we actually do need a name for this little, I suppose, village at the moment, which will eventually turn into a town, which will then turn into a city. But we need a name for it, so by all means, please leave a comment. When we unlock the districts, what should we name this town that we're building right now? But at the moment, we need to give them an elementary school so that we can educate our citizens. Like I said, I really like using the JP Elementary School, but I just don't necessarily think it fits the style we're going for at the very moment. I do like that it's a smaller asset, but I think this is going to fit just a little bit better, maybe. Okay, let's take a look at this for a moment. Let's turn off info views. Bring up our school again. This is Okay, so if this is an average looking house that we'll probably have in the build, size-wise, this school looks very tiny. I think you could probably educate about 5 Sims in there. So let's see, this says it has a student capacity of 50, and the one that I like using has a student capacity of 270. You know what, as much as I wanted to use this small one, I actually think it does make most sense, looking through all of these and the styles of all of them, to use the JP Elementary School. I do think I would like to use the Rice Park Community High School when we do need a high school. The style, the way this building is designed, I think it would fit near perfectly what we're looking for. But for now, I think we're unfortunately going to decide to go with this. Not because it's a bad asset, but because it's the only one that necessarily makes sense. The rest of these look much too modern to fit into this city that we're building. And this one just doesn't have the capacity. I mean, we could place 10 of these, but that seems insane. This one also has a parking lot. And as we already know, I love parking lots because I love cars. So that was weird. I think that actually works out perfectly. Do we have parks unlocked yet? No, but we need to add a landfill. So I think for the landfill, what we should do, well, if we're preserving roads up there for a train station, I don't know that that makes the most sense. Maybe we should grab our gravel road. I think we could probably put the landfill over here. I know that's really far away from where we are right now. Maybe I could put it over here in this area. The benefit to putting the train station over here is it's going to be a cargo train station. The benefit to putting the train station on this side where the residential area is that it would be more focused on residential. And actually, I think for the history of the town, it would make more sense to have the train station in this area because that's where people would have come to town to begin with. So that leaves us more room for our garbage over here. I'll just say this is good enough. We'll continue this grid down through here, connect this up, and then I don't want the landfill too close to the water. I think I'll put the landfill down through here. So we'll give it a little bit more space. I think we'll give the landfill, yeah, we'll give the landfill this. That way we can detail it in the future, put some fencing around it, make it look a little bit nicer. So I actually think if we place this here, we'll be able to place 2 in the future with a road cutting up through the middle. and we've actually set it up to where we can place 4. Now that's a lot of garbage collection, and I don't know that we would ever need that much, but to know that we could is nice. So let's go ahead and grab a 1U road. Do we have any other dirt 1U roads? No, we don't. So we'll just grab this one, and we will send it straight up through the middle here. And then, actually, we need to disable zoning on that because that doesn't necessarily work with what we want to do. Actually, not loving that. That looks pretty terrible. There we go. That seems to fit it a little bit better. Maybe we tweak that in the future, maybe not. I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll eventually get rid of the landfills. I don't like the landfills in this game. I think they look pretty awful. So I do want to reserve just a little bit of this area to keep a path running through behind these houses. I like car-focused cities, but I do also understand that the game doesn't like that. So I kind of like to preserve enough of walkability to make sure that people can walk to where they want to go. Because your Sims will walk straight across the map to get to work. I don't know how they get there in time. I don't know how they've maintained their job over the years, but they have, so good for them. I think honestly, if you were to spend your entire time walking to your job, that shows, hey, you're dedicated to your career, and maybe that's all they want to know. It seems like an inefficient way to do it, but you can do it. All right, let's see. We have no industrial demand. We have a bit of commercial demand that I think we could zone through here. I think it would make sense to have that kind of zoned as a bit of a commercial hub. I would assume in the future, this would be our very small main street. In fact, this actually looks pretty good. I don't necessarily know that this is a Western style building, but it looks good for what it is. In fact, what is this? Neighborhood shop. That's actually pretty cool. I know it's just randomly generated as a neighborhood shop, but that appears to be what it is. That's neat. And this is something, this is supposed to be a butcher shop. This is the nicest butcher shop I've ever seen in my life. So we're making significant progress now. We have a lot of demand for residential, so let's go ahead and enable our zoning on the zoning adjuster, and let's continue our grid down. So we were going by units of 12, which I would like to stick to, so. Actually, I think we're gonna make a quick change here. I think instead of running the road up through that, we would want to save area for a potential train station through there. So let's see, can we just make this a fork in the road? We can. Let's grab node controller, select this node, give it a little bit more space so that our Sims can choose which way they want to go. I wanted to leave this as a little bit of space, that way we can have the train station right through here. Because I certainly realized we did not leave enough space, which actually it wouldn't have mattered because this isn't level with this area. This is where it starts to level out. That was great. I intended to do that. Absolutely I did. But with that, we can continue our build. I think this would leave enough room for the train station. Yeah, I think that would leave enough room for the train station. We can zone some residential through here. So I am going to attempt to reserve some water frontage for public access. I would like to put a park down through here. I know we have these 5 houses through here, but I would like to reserve this area for a park in the future. I also realized we need to run our water pipes down through here. Otherwise, people are going to be very mad at us. But yeah, so about reaching our goal of 750, we may actually get there in this episode. We're at 500. If we just keep meeting that demand, I think we'll get there. Let's see, we're starting to get pretty tight through here. I think what would make the most sense is to maximize our zoning through here. And we'll just go to these nodes. So that may not be the most realistic thing, but it does, I think, serve the purpose of maximizing our zoning. We can just create some intersections through here. The grid, I'm assuming, would kind of break through here as we lose land area, mainly because there's not much more area we can build. If we cross the train tracks, which we can do, we actually come across some really steep inclines. We could do some switchback roads, but I think if we were going to do that, we would do that closer to the highway in the town, kind of similar to where this is. So this may be the end of this tiny little area, but I think if you were going for the look of an old western city or an old western town, I think this would be just about the size that you would get out of one of them before you start getting out into the wilderness, which clearly we will. Let's see, let's go ahead and speed the game back up. and run some water pipes. That way we can maximize just the little bit that we have left. We do have some commercial demand, which, let's see, where can we place that? How is this? That's pretty steep. We'll place some commercial next to the train tracks. I don't want anything to necessarily start messing with the terrain, but I think for what we have, that would be acceptable. And then that way these paths can walk directly from the waterfront to these shops, and they have pretty close access to the highway. It makes sense. It's not the most efficient use of the space, but it makes sense. All right, so let's go ahead and turn off our snap 2s. That way we can just come down through here and run our water pipes right through the roads, which I would like to point out none of us did until City Planner Plays decided to come in and completely mess with our perspectives on how water pipes are ran in City Skylines. It was like the Wild West back in the day. We just put them wherever they made sense, and now they only make sense under the road. A moment of silence for all of the water pipes I ran through previous cities, because they are all wrong. Alright, so I do think because we are coming out of town so much, we would see some zoning along the highways, or at least some houses along the highway. So I actually just made what I think is a bad decision. Let me turn forced zoning off. I thought maybe it would be a good idea to turn this into a highway after you exit through the town, and then the highway ends at this fork in the road. But I just realized if we were to make this a highway, that would imply that it goes somewhere. And it doesn't. We could run the highway along this railroad track right here. I think the downside of that being it's probably one of the deadliest highways, as it seems like you can just run directly off the road into Lost River. I also just noticed this. This is going to make a great little cargo hub or port one day. This map has so many beautiful details in it that I've just been astonished by. I mean, look at this. Hats off to the creator of this map. I did truly look for hours and just kept coming back to this. It's just stunning. Anyway, I've now lost my place, and funny enough, that's how this city got the name, or this county got the name. I saw the river, and I got lost because I was looking through all of the different crevices of the map, and the river was the only way that I could find my way back. So I called it Lost River, and that's how it got its name. So we have Lost River County. All right, so we have the train station running up through there. I think we could probably get some zoning up through here, train station being there. I think that could work. We'll just make these cul-de-sacs down on the end. All right, and I do think, yeah, we need water running up through there and through there. All right, now we have water. Let's go ahead, put this back on 3-speed, and let's just brush in some residential zoning. So this is certainly quite dense for what you would expect to see from an old western town. I do plan on not zoning it so densely on this area right here through the highway, or through what appears to be a highway. I also realized that I made a bit of a faux pas and didn't connect power before doing this, so they're not going to have power for a little while. I think they'll be okay. So this is mainly reserved for a park area. We'll run the park along the waterfront to probably the fork in the road, have a place for people to park so they can walk. And we have done it! We have reached the goal for this video. We have districts. We can set up our district styles at the beginning of the next episode. I'm super excited for that. We have policies, we can take out a second loan, we have emergency services, we have a lot to do at the start of the next episode. So what I'm going to do real quick is just pause this. These people are going to be mad about their power until the next episode, which just comes out in a few days, so it's not that long of a wait for these people. But I'm super excited. We unlocked the districts, so what I want you to do is leave a comment in the description below telling me what you think this little area, this district, this small village or town in the wild, wild west, now reformed to the modernized rural west, should be called. I'm super excited. We've unlocked this. We can get a district style going in the future to what I think would look like a realistic version of what an up-and-coming area in the west would look like, or I suppose a revitalized ghost town. I think that is a fantastic place to end this episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up on this video and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment telling us what you think this district should be called, as it is the first small town of Lost River County. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click on the video on the screen right now because YouTube seems to think you'll like it, and they are very rarely wrong, especially with my recommendations. So anyway, thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.